I never imagined that I, Elena Hargrove, 30 years old and living in Silverwood, United Kingdom, would find myself in such a tangled web of deceit and manipulation. My world was pretty ordinary, and I maintained a good life surrounded by my friends and family. I was fiercely independent and had carved a niche for myself in a small marketing firm, working hard and dreaming of my future. When I met Dan, I thought he was the answer to my dreams. Dan was 43, charming and incredibly convincing. After our first meeting in March 2021, I was captivated by his grounded persona and the compelling life story he wove. He claimed to be a convert to Islam and spoke of his spiritual journey and the richness of the culture. He had a flat, a car, and the latest Apple products, which I found impressive. He had even returned from 2 years of studying in Egypt, which added a sprinkle of adventure to his mystique. I believed I was with a true gem, someone mature and self-sufficient. Feeling exhilarated and a bit swept off my feet, I married him in an Islamic ceremony just weeks later. I thought we were building something promising together. But as the months rolled on, my reality took a stark turn, and the happiness I once felt began to crumble. Suddenly, I found myself shouldering all the financial burdens. I was footing the bill for our dinners, dating outings, and even our trips. As I watched the balance tips from him being this principled, loving partner to a man who hardly contributed, I questioned everything about our relationship. He had a male lodger living in his flat, which he used as an excuse to keep me away from his supposed space. He needed the income to travel to Scotland to see his parents and to preserve the image of a dutiful son. He convinced me to rent a place in my name because he supposedly had financial difficulties. He told me about how his remote job was not paying him on time and how the cost of living was too high. I should have known better, but he made sure to soften the blow by contributing small amounts of money here and there, making it appear that he was really trying. One day, he casually mentioned that his car needed repairs, and I handed him £400, believing I was supporting my husband in his time of need. In December 2021, we even went on a holiday to my home country, the stunning Seychelles, which I paid for entirely. During that trip, I chose to immerse myself in the blissful waves and golden shores, temporarily casting aside the swirling thoughts of my hidden turmoil. I saw my beautiful country as a place where I wanted to build a life, filled with dreams of sun-soaked days and a fresh start. Dan knew how to charm his way into my heart and surround himself with the illusion of living a luxurious lifestyle on someone else's dime. He acted like the ideal partner, attending to my needs and making the right gestures, but I started to feel unease creeping into my heart. 2 days after we landed back in the UK, he shattered my world. The bombshell of having two wives, one in Scotland and another in Egypt, left me feeling sick to my core. The joyous life I had imagined was built on a bed of lies. I felt paralyzed with disbelief. How could someone so deceptive exist? I had an open mind about polygamy, as it can function healthily under clear intentions and mutual consent, yet Dan managed to entwine me in his deceitful world instead. Soon after, a woman named Nadia reached out to me, introducing herself as one of Dan's other wives. My heart sank as she revealed how Dan was a serial cheater who used religious beliefs as a mask to hide his true nature. At first, I wanted to shake off this accusation. It felt too surreal. However, her words resonated with an unsettling truth that I could not overlook. Nadia's distressing tales unraveled the truth behind the glamorous lifestyle Dan had shown me. His car, his flats, and all the tech toys were not his due to his hard work. They belonged to her, a civil servant who had unwittingly turned into his lifeline. She was the one supporting him financially, managing both his London and Scottish flats, paying bills, and even funding the lavish lifestyle he led. It hit me like a brick. I was just another pawn in his elaborate game. Surprisingly, Nadia was not just his co-wife. She was the very lodger he had mentioned earlier, the one whom I was never meant to meet. With each passing day, my emotional state spiraled further down, even as I continued pouring over £1,000 a month in rent and bills without his help. The reality of what I was facing became unbearably painful, and I eventually reached my breaking point. Through all the emotional torment and the sleepless nights, I quickly recognized Dan's manipulation and his cautious triangulation of women. I realized my feelings were being toyed with, and there was no love in the situation I was trapped in. So I devised a plan. I told Dan that I was considering moving back to the Seychelles, an idea that seemed almost surreal in my mind, but felt liberating when I spoke it aloud. I painted a dream of a luxurious life there, revisiting everything I had cherished during our holiday. I sought to make him feel the weight of losing me without actually revealing my depth of contempt. I began to accept the reality of coexisting with another wife and shared how that would require him to be more present in England to support her. I pulled the emotional rug out from under him, and to my surprise, he started to chase me. I had become desirable once more, perhaps because I was no longer clinging to him. Nadia was caught in the whirlwind of emotions. Her anxiety shot through the roof as I began to distance myself. She pleaded with him, threatening to harm herself if he committed to leaving her so suddenly. Dan quietly pulled away from her as well, coaxed by my new independence, leaving Nadia in a tidal wave of confusion and heartbreak. The power balance had begun to shift towards me. I could see it in their interactions. I assumed the role of the serene and accepting wife who held the upper hand. Dan continued to belittle and criticize her, driving her further into despair. One day, Nadia burst into the flat while I was there, demanding answers, and chaos unfurled before our very eyes. She collapsed in a heap of anguish, desperately seeking help despite having once tried to lash out in anger. In that moment, I felt pity for her, but also a profound realization. She was a shell of her former self, drained by years of deceit and heartbreak. We both looked at Dan with a mixture of emotions. I encouraged him to inform her about our shared properties, as Islamic teachings dictate. But he had not done that, leaving the room uncomfortably silent. After Nadia stormed out, Dan found himself spiraling without her financial support. I had already taken notice of the situation and decided the tables would turn. I laid down new terms in our relationship. I refused to pay rent and bills. It was his flat and thus his responsibility. I reminded him of his obligations as a husband to support me, as I would walk away if he could not. The shock in his expression was priceless. He had lost Nadia, and now he faced the fear of losing me. My emotional detachment had worked in my favor. No longer was I the naive wife blindly following along. I was now the one in control, flexing the newfound strength I had cultivated. Dan focused heavily on maintaining his deceptive image and now had to track back and try to rectify his mistakes, paying for my bills and attempting to win my favor, all while visualizing a future where he could happily relocate to the Seychelles without a broken spirit or empty pockets. I adopted a calm demeanor, never reacting to his portrayals of victimhood, embodying an unwavering sense of poise. The power had shifted so subtly but so effectively. I had become a storm hiding in the calm surface of my own making. When he was down at his lowest, after all his manipulation and deceit, I seized the moment to leave. Reflecting on this experience, if I could go back, I would say these lessons to myself and anyone in a similar situation. People-pleasing can disguise itself as love or a compromise, but it is often a form of self-neglect. Supporting your partner financially can sometimes spiral into an abusive relationship where love disappears and manipulation takes its place. I learned to reclaim my power not with revenge, but through emotional clarity and firm boundaries. When I stopped reacting and started standing firm, everything began to shift in my favor, and I owned my narrative. Most importantly, I wouldn't sacrifice my true self in an effort to rescue someone who never genuinely invested their heart in me. I allowed myself to heal and roam freely in self-forgiveness. Sometimes revenge is not about drowning in rage. It is about discovering your strength in the open light while letting someone else grapple with the consequences of their actions. And Nadia, if you are ever reading this, I wish you nothing but peace and unyielding strength. You deserve to heal and reclaim your life in its fullest form. Together, we can rise above the chaos they left in our hearts.